Have you ever stopped yourself from asking for help not because you didn't need it, but because you didn't want to bother anyone? Maybe it was something small. A ride to the doctor, help carrying groceries, or just a call to hear a familiar voice. But instead of reaching out, you kept it to yourself. You told yourself, they're busy, or I don't want to be a burden. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many older adults experience this quiet fear. The fear of being too much for the people they love. It doesn't come from weakness. It comes from love, from dignity, from years of being the one others could count on. And now, the idea of needing help even a little can feel uncomfortable. Heavy. Like you're asking for too much, even when you're not. But what if I told you this feeling is more common than you think? And more importantly, what if I told you it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you? In today's video, we're going to explore the hidden psychology behind this feeling and why it's completely human, completely normal, and absolutely worth talking about. Let's begin. As we grow older, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. Many seniors, especially those in their 70 seconds, 80 seconds, and beyond, find themselves hesitating more often before asking for help, not because they're incapable and not because help isn't available, but because deep inside, a quiet thought whispers, I don't want to be a burden. This feeling doesn't come out of nowhere. It often begins after a change, retirement, a health diagnosis, the loss of a spouse, or the moment you realize you now rely on others more than before. What makes this feeling so complex is that it's rarely talked about. People might see your independence, your smile, your strength, but they don't always see the guilt that sits underneath when you have to ask for something, and sometimes even those closest to you don't understand it. They say, just ask if you need anything, but inside, you hesitate, because the fear isn't just about asking, it's about what it means to need. In this video, we're going to explore 5 deep emotional layers behind that fear. Once we understand where it comes from, we can begin to soften its grip and reclaim peace in our relationships. For most of your life, you were the one others turned to. You were the one who made meals, offered rides, paid the bills, took care of everything when someone else needed rest. You held the family together through holidays, illnesses, and unexpected crises. You were the strong one, the dependable one, but something starts to shift with age. And it's not just physical, it's emotional. One day, you find yourself needing a hand getting up the stairs, asking someone to read a small print on a label, or needing help scheduling a doctor's appointment. And while the people around you may gladly help you, still hesitate. Why? Because deep down, that simple moment feels like something bigger. It feels like you're crossing a line from being the giver to becoming the one who needs, and that transition can be hard, not because you're ashamed of aging, but because your identity was once tied to helping others. It gave you purpose. It made you feel needed. And now, asking for help can feel like giving up a piece of that. Take Maria, for example. She's 78 and spent decades raising 3 children and caring for her late husband through illness. She was the caretaker, the provider. But now, she finds herself leaning more on her daughter for rides, for groceries, for comfort. And even though her daughter insists it's no trouble at all, Maria still whispers to herself, I don't want to become a burden. This shift, this quiet change from being the helper to needing help, can stir up unexpected emotions. Guilt, grief, frustration, even shame. You might find yourself apologizing often, declining support even when it would make life easier, or isolating yourself, just to avoid feeling like you're taking too much. But here's what's true. Receiving help doesn't erase your years of giving. Your value wasn't in what you did for others. It was in who you were when you showed up with love, strength, and grace, and that part of you is still here. It doesn't vanish when roles shift. In fact, receiving with grace is its own kind of wisdom. It teaches those around you how to care, how to show up, how to give back to someone who once gave so much. You're not a burden. You're a blessing. And just because you once carried others doesn't mean you can't now let others carry you. Even just a little, it's not weakness. It's part of the circle of life. And in that circle, your worth is never up for debate. There's a moment small, almost invisible, when you realize that asking for help doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels wrong. You don't mean to feel guilty, but that quiet weight settles in your chest every time you say, "Can you help me with this?" It's not pride. It's not stubbornness. It's guilt. Guilt. Invisible guilt. It shows up in tiny ways. Like when you apologize many times for something simple, or when you overwork yourself to make up for it, or when you say, "Never mind, I'll figure it out," just to avoid asking at all. That guilt doesn't come from weakness. It often comes from a lifetime of being strong. For years, you were the helper, the one people leaned on, who fixed things, remembered birthdays, and held others together. Now, needing help can feel like betraying that role. Take Harold, for example. He's 81, recovering from hip surgery. His daughter moved in to help, cooking meals and folding laundry. But Harold felt a knot in his stomach every time and avoided asking, risking pain just to escape the shame of needing help. That's the thing about guilt. It makes you shrink, stay quiet, and believe your needs are an inconvenience. But the truth is, your needs are not a problem. They are human. We all go through seasons of giving and receiving. Allowing others to support you isn't being a burden. It gives them a chance to love you back. Just as you once felt honored to help, your loved ones feel the same now. So next time you feel guilty, pause and breathe. You've carried so much now. It's okay to be carried a little too. You see them rushing through life. Your children, your grandchildren, maybe even your neighbors. Their days are filled with noise work meetings, school runs, soccer practice, doctor's appointments, endless errands. And somewhere in the middle of it all, you find yourself pulling back, not because you don't love them, not because you don't want to see them, but because you don't want to interrupt. You tell yourself, they're busy. They have enough on their plate. I shouldn't add to it. This fear of being one more item on someone's already overflowing to-do list is deeply human. Let's take Irene as an example. She's 83 and lives alone near her daughter, Emily. Emily visits when she can, but is overwhelmed by work, kids, and aging in-laws. Irene notices her fatigue, so she stays silent, ignoring the broken fridge. A dit si spell, or her loneliness. But here's the quiet cost of that mindset. Your world gets smaller. Not because others shut you out, but because you shut yourself out. Over time, protection becomes isolation. Instead of being part of their busy lives, you withdraw. You stop calling, wait for them to reach out, and hide your worries. Not from lack of love, but from fear of being selfish. But what if that's not true? What if your presence, your voice, your wisdom, all of that adds something important to their lives? Even if they don't say it out loud, love doesn't disappear when people are busy. Reaching out, asking, saying, "Can you come by this week?" isn't a burden. It's an invitation to connect and remember what matters. There's gentle strength in speaking up, saying, "I know you're busy, but I'd love to see you," or "I miss our talks." Can we plan something that's not demanding? That's being human. Even those who love you can't always read your silence. They may think you're fine. So if your heart longs for connection, don't wait, make the call. Send the message, let them know, because your needs are not interruptions. They are invitations to slow down, to share life, to love more fully. And you, just by being who you are, still matter more than you know. There's a special kind of love in caregiving. If you've ever cared for an aging parent, a sick spouse, or a friend in need, you know what it takes physically, emotionally, and mentally. You remember the long nights, the medication schedules, the appointments, the moments of worry no one else saw. You remember being tired, but pushing through because someone needed you. And now, all these years later, those memories don't disappear. They shape how you see yourself and how you imagine others might feel if they had to care for you. Take George, for example. He's 79 and spent nearly a decade caring for his wife, Eleanor. After she was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he bathed her, dressed her, helped her eat, and watched the woman he loved slowly fade. He did it out of love, deep, enduring love, but it wore him down. Quietly, without complaint. After she passed, George told a friend, "I'd do it all over again, but I don't ever want to put someone else through that for me." That one sentence carries the weight of so many older adults, because when you've been a caregiver, the cost, not just in time and effort, but in how much of yourself you have to give. So now, when you begin to need help, something inside you hesitates. Not because you don't trust the people around you, but because you know how exhausting it can be. You've lived it. You've seen what it demands, and you think to yourself, I don't want anyone to feel like I did. That's not selfish. That's empathy. But it can also lead you into silence. You might choose not to mention your pain. You might try to hide your forgetfulness, your unsteadiness, your fears. Not because you're in denial, but because you're trying to protect the people you love from the weight of worry. The burden of caregiving. What you might not realize is this: the people who love you aren't doing it out of obligation. They're doing it from the same kind of love you once gave, and caregiving looks different now. You don't have to picture your loved ones losing sleep or sacrificing everything. Sometimes help means a ride to the store, a reminder to take your pills, or just someone checking in once a week. It's not all or nothing. It's not your past repeating itself, but trauma, yes. Even the trauma of loving someone through decline leaves a quiet imprint. It makes you overly aware. It makes you cautious. It tells you don't be the reason someone else burns out. And that fear, while understandable, can slowly separate you from the support you truly need. So here's something to remember. The love you once gave doesn't disappear. It's still alive in your children, in your friends, in the people who learned compassion because they watched you model it. Now it's their turn. Not to pay you back. Not because they owe you, but because love, when it's real, circles back. You're not passing on a burden. You're passing on a legacy. Let that be enough. There's a longing that lives quietly in the hearts of many older adults, a longing that's rarely spoken aloud. It's not the need for help. It's not about meals, or medications, or doctor's appointments. It's deeper than that. It's the desire to be loved freely, willingly, joyfully, not because someone has to love you, but because they want to. At some point in life, many seniors begin to wonder, are people visiting me because they care or because they feel obligated? Are they spending time with me out of love or out of guilt? And the truth is, even if your children and grandchildren are kind, even if they call or visit or help, this question can still whisper inside you. Especially when your body slows down, when you need more help than you used to, when conversations are shorter, when visits feel rushed, when you sense even slightly that someone is checking the box instead of truly connecting. That feeling can hurt more than loneliness itself, because while being alone is one thing, Feeling unwanted while someone is with you is something else entirely. Take Eleanor, 86, a retired school teacher. Her son visits every Sunday without fail. He brings groceries, asks how she's feeling, and reminds her to take her medications, but his eyes are often on the clock. He stays for just an hour before heading to the next errand. Eleanor appreciates the help, but deep down, she misses him. Not the groceries, not the tasks. She told a friend once, he's here, but it feels like he's already gone. It's hard to say those words out loud because they sound ungrateful, but they come from a place of deep emotional truth. As we age, we often crave presence more than productivity. A conversation with no hurry, a hug that lingers, a laugh shared just because, but when the people around us are busy or distracted or simply unsure how to connect with aging loved ones, what we often receive is care, not connection. And while care keeps the body going, connection feeds the soul. Many seniors begin to withdraw, not because they're bitter, but because they're trying to protect their hearts. They'd rather be alone than feel like someone is with them out of duty. They'd rather wait for real love than accept routine gestures without feeling. This is the silent emotional divide that often grows in families. One side is giving help, the other is longing for closeness. And both feel misunderstood. But here's the truth. You are not wrong for wanting more than duty. You are not too sensitive for feeling the difference. You are human. You deserve to be loved in ways that feel real. Not because of what you once did, not because someone owes you, but simply because you are still you. And you still matter. So what can we do with this deep longing? How do we honor it without letting it isolate us? It starts with honesty. Sometimes saying something simple like, I miss our longer talks, or can we just sit together for a while without rushing? Can open a door? It's not a complaint. It's a request for real presence. And many times, your loved ones may not even realize what you're craving until you say it. Other times, connection may come in smaller, unexpected places. A kind neighbor, a friendly voice at church, an old friend who still calls just to laugh. These moments matter. They remind us that love doesn't always have to come from family. It can come from community, from shared stories, from quiet companionship. But most of all, it's important to remind yourself, you are worthy of love that feels free. Love that isn't rushed. Love that sees you not just as someone who needs help, but as someone who still is with stories, opinions, humor, heart. You are more than a role. You are more than a responsibility. You are a person still capable of giving, receiving, laughing, dreaming. And while it may feel like the world is moving faster without you, the truth is, there are people who still need the kind of love only you can give. But they can only meet you where you are if you stay open. If you stay real, if you keep letting yourself be seen, that kind of vulnerability takes courage. But in that courage, something beautiful happens. When you open the door to honest connection, you give others permission to do the same. And little by little, love becomes less about duty and more about delight. So if you've ever wondered, do they really want to be here? You're not alone. And if you've ever wished, I just want to be loved for who I am, not for what I need, you are speaking a truth that lives in the hearts of many. You are not too much. You are not asking for the impossible. You are asking for what we all want, no matter our age, to be loved freely. Let's pause here for a moment. Take a deep breath and remember this truth. You are not a burden. You are not too much. You are not a problem to be solved. You are not something people simply deal with. You are a blessing. Yes, you may move a little slower now. You may need more help than you once did. but that doesn't make you less. It makes you human. It makes you someone who has lived. Every wrinkle, every scar, every story you carry is proof of a life that has mattered. You have given love. You have shown up for others. You have held families together, comforted friends, and given strength when it was needed most. And even now, your presence matters. You still bring calm. You still bring warmth. You still carry wisdom that can light up a younger heart. If someone offers to help you today, it's not because you are a burden. It's because they see your worth. They remember everything you've done. And deep down, they want to give back, not out of duty, but out of love. So the next time you hesitate, worried that you're asking too much, pause and breathe. You are not asking too much. You are offering something too: your trust, your openness, your beautiful, ongoing presence. If you ever forget how much you matter, let these words be your gentle reminder. Your life is still full of meaning. Your heart is still full of love. And your presence is still a gift. If you've ever held back from asking for help, if you've ever stayed quiet because you didn't want to bother anyone, if you've ever sat alone and wondered, do they really want to spend time with me, or do they feel they have to? Then please know this: you're not alone. And what you feel is valid. These thoughts aren't weaknesses. They come from a place of deep love, of lived experience. They come from someone who has spent a lifetime caring for others, often putting their own needs aside. And now, even in moments when you need care yourself, your first instinct is still to protect the people you love from worry, from stress, from responsibility. But just because you've always been strong doesn't mean you have to carry everything alone. Just because you know others are busy doesn't mean your needs should stay silent. And just because you fear being a burden doesn't mean that you are one. There is nothing wrong with needing support. There is nothing wrong with wanting to feel seen. There is nothing wrong with hoping for love that feels genuine and unhurried. These are human needs, and they don't fade with age. They simply grow quieter, waiting for a safe space to be heard. Sometimes, the people around you may forget to check in. Sometimes, they may show up in action, but forget to slow down and be present. That doesn't mean they've stopped caring. It just means they may not fully understand what your heart longs for, or how much strength it takes for you to keep showing up every day with grace. But hear this: your presence still matters. Your voice, your warmth, your wisdom, all of it still matters deeply. The world may move fast, but the quiet steadiness you bring is something no one else can replace. So if your heart feels heavy with thoughts you haven't said aloud, know that it's okay to speak them. It's okay to want more than surface-level visits. It's okay to say, "I miss feeling close." You are not asking too much. You are simply asking to be seen, not as someone who needs, but as someone who is. You're still whole, still worthy, still needed. Let this be your gentle reminder. You are not alone in what you feel. You are deeply human. And there are people more than you think who would be honored to sit beside you, listen to you, and love you, not out of duty, but because of who you are. Above all else, never forget this simple truth: you still matter. If any part of today's message touched your heart, know that you're not alone. And you don't have to carry these feelings by yourself. What you're going through is more common than people realize, but not everyone knows how to talk about it. That's why we created this space. A place where older adults like you can feel seen, understood, and supported without judgment or pressure. So if you've ever felt like a burden or quietly wish someone would ask how you feel, this is your reminder that your voice still matters. And we want to hear it. In the comments, feel free to share a memory, a thought, or even just a simple "that's how I feel too." You never know who might read your words and feel less alone because of them. And if this video helped you in any way, consider subscribing. We create gentle, thoughtful videos like this every week for people who deserve to feel loved, respected, and connected, no matter their age. Together, we can keep this conversation going. Slowly, kindly, honestly, because your story matters. Because you matter,